Judaism is one of the oldest faiths in the world. It's a monotheistic faith, meaning we believe in one God. There are other religions that have sprung forth from Judaism. Christianity, Islam are both religions that are monotheistic and have sprung from the trunk of Judaism.
Christianity is a religion that began in the Middle East, in Israel, much like the Jewish tradition, and comes out of the Hebrew people and their relationship with God. We believe as Christians that a Jewish man named Jesus opened out the covenant between God and Israel to the rest of the world, and that through his crucifixion by the Roman authorities and through his resurrection, that we, in being aligned to him and open to his spirit, that we are the ways that we have been separated from God has been overcome, and through his spirit we are drawn back into unity with God.
Islam is an Abrahamic faith, which means that we believe in Abraham and his two sons, Isaac and Ishmael, and we believe in the creed of Abraham, which is the oneness, monotheism, and the oneness of God, that there is only one God. We believe in all of the messengers sent by God, from Adam all the way through Muhammad, peace be upon them, and we believe in all of the previous books and the scriptures revealed by God. And that includes the Old Testament and the New Testament and the books of Abraham and the books of David. And we believe that the last book revealed was the Quran.
Probably the founding of the State of Israel in 1948 is a very dramatic event in the history of the Jewish people.
Named in the media the Arab Spring, the collapse of the dictatorship that was in Egypt, the collapse of the dictatorship that was in Tunisia, that was in Yemen, and the war that happened in Syria, that breaks off in Syria. I think that was the most important events in the past 100 years.
I would say that the most important event of the Middle East in the last 100 years was the formation of the State of Israel after World War II. And the reverberations of that event have been immense all over the Middle East and all over the world in many ways, especially in our own country, because of our alliance with Israel.
Zionism is a desire for a national homeland for the Jewish people. It was the British paper that declared that Jews had a right to live in a national homeland in Israel. I think I can be one of the people who believe that there should be two states, one for the Palestinian people, one for the Jewish people. I think Israel has made concerted efforts to talk to Palestinians about establishing a peace agreement that would have led to a two-state solution. It's been difficult to get a peace deal established, which is unfortunate. Yitzhak Rabin tried, Prime Minister Barak tried, Prime Minister Olmert tried. 3 attempts were made, and each deal ended in failure.
And I think the Palestinians have the right to have their own land, just like the Israelis have the right to have their own land. I don't think that will bother anyone. Hopefully not. Okay.
Absolutely, that Israel has a right to exist, of course, and and obviously, and a lot of the Palestinians that I related to also believe that. But I also believe strongly that the Palestinians have a right to have their own country. And so I just see it as a two-state solution as being the way forward. But you have the difficult issue of all the Jewish settlements on the Palestinians' side of things. I think that, and then this wall that is the security wall, the security barrier that is snaking not just along the Green Line, which was the original agreement in 1967.
I think it's fair to say that many Palestinians believe that all the land should return to, not return, but become Palestinian. That's a one-state solution from their perspective. You also have Israelis who are so fed up that they say we should have a one-state solution and it should all be controlled by Israel. One has to remember that the State of Israel was founded by the UN. It came by reason of a vote of the UN. So the legitimacy of Israel should not be called into question because the UN voted for the partition of the land after the British Mandate. Israel has accepted that. Arab countries have not, nor have the Palestinians accepted it. The Six-Day War led to the acquisition of the Golan Heights, the Sinai Peninsula, Gaza, and the West Bank, Judea, Samaria. Today, Gaza has been given back to the Palestinians. Sinai has been returned to the Egyptians. Golan probably will never be given back because it was taken from the Syrians during the Six-Day War, which was initiated by Arab countries, not by Israel. The Six-Day War was not a war of aggression, it was a war of defense for Israel.
Southern Lebanon with because of the Israeli occupation of the South Lebanon, and then I knew that Israel they withdraw from the Southern Lebanon, and I know there is a Sunni Shia conflict in Lebanon. I'm not sure. All I know that the Sunni approach that we oppose what Hezbollah is doing in Lebanon in many perspectives.
What a lot of people do not know is that in both Iran and Iraq, in these majority Muslim countries, there are Christian Arabs, many Christian Arabs who live there, but they are a vast minority, and in certain areas, they are a persecuted minority. There have been many church bombings and killings of Christians in both Iran and Iraq, and many Christian Arab refugees who have fled Iran and Iraq to come here to the United States and to other European countries to get away from the violence of those areas.
Israel requires all post-high school students to serve in the military, and they usually serve between high school and college. So when they finish their military service, Israeli young people, both men and women, serve in the military, and then they presumably go on to either work or college after their military service. However, until the age of, I think it's 55 in Israel, you have to serve in the reserves. So, capital of Israel. Wish America would recognize it as the capital of Israel. They haven't done that yet. It's the historic, capital of the Jewish people for thousands of years. A city that's really the center of three major religions: Christianity, Islam, Judaism?
Gaza Strip was once belonged to Egypt, and then I think it's also Palestinian land, and now they have been occupied by the Israeli troops once, and then they let go of this Gaza Strip, and then now the Palestinians are living there.
And we really experienced, got the taste and experience of what it's like for Palestinians in the West Bank to be living day-to-day lives under the Israeli occupation. And so we went to checkpoints and we met Arabs who were having to, go through the checkpoints in order to get to work, and who were living with this constant pressure and the intensity of living in an occupied land, and just hearing about their stories. Heard their stories about Israeli military building the wall that was cutting off some of their farmland.
Part of Egypt, and it was occupied in 1967 by Israel, along with the Golan Heights and the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. And Egypt had to go to war with Israel in 1973 to get this land back. And finally, the land was given back to Egypt through a peace treaty. It was called the Camp David Peace Treaty between Egypt and Israel. At that time, that was during the Carter presidency.
The Intifada, there have been two intifadas, technically Intifada. They might even consider this stabbing period of time going on as the third Intifada, but it isn't as significant as the first two. So the first Intifada was back, I believe, in the early 2000s. And it was an attempt to force Israel into a peace agreement. It was sort of like blackmailing Israel through violence, which is the same thing with the second Intifada. Was an attempt to reach a peace agreement. It was during the Clinton period.
Right. Okay.
And that fell through. Arafat just couldn't get himself to agree to accept a Israel state next to a Palestinian state. Shame. Most of the Palestinian refugees live in countries in which they will not be allowed to. You can't speak about a refugee who's been a refugee for 70 years. For example, if someone comes to the United States as a refugee, within a generation, they're American citizens. I question why people who have moved to Jordan or to Lebanon are still considered refugees. Those countries should have absorbed them and they should have become citizens of that country. The idea that, look, 800,000 Palestinians were in exile after the War of Independence. Today claim that there are 5 million refugees. That's impossible.
I think this is a humanitarian thing. I think that's international law to allow refugees to come to your country if they are suffering from political prosecution or religious prosecution. I think that's the United States, the United Nations law. I believe so. As long as they are, as long as they are not threatening anyone, as long as they are, if you could run a background check on them before you let them in, I think that would be. I think that would be great if you let them in. Canada has done so already. Europe has done. Germany has done so already. I think the United States, with its welcoming, and over the centuries, the United States opened its door and its gates to all refugees and all immigrants from Italy, Ireland, Scandinavian countries, from Latin immigration to African immigration, and this is what the United States is all about. Just refugees and immigrants from all over the world. I think that Syrian refugees now are no exceptions. I believe so. the people who are affected by these terror threats or these terror actions, these terror attacks the most are the Muslim communities in the United States, unfortunately, because everyone does something. I'm not sure what was the motive behind any action. I'm not sure if it was a religious motive or a political motive, but if anything happens, unfortunately, the whole Muslim community is dragged into it, and I think the Muslims are suffering from this just like any other Americans and just like any other people of different faith or different backgrounds. On top of everything else, I mean, the Muslims could have been a victim of any of these attacks because, I mean, we do our living here. We go to work in the morning, we come back, we go to school, we go out, we go to the markets. And if anything happens, the Muslim could also, they could have been the victim of that. I mean, they are part of the community. We are part of the social cohesion of this community. We cannot be, separated. And anything happens, we reach a point that if we hear anything happens in the news, besides being sad and concerned about it, people pray that we hope that whoever did this is not a Muslim. We reach that point because it's going to be like a great, it's a big negative impact on us if it was done by a Muslim. I think education is the only key for that. From our end here in the mosque, what we do is that we raise a generation on the true understanding of Islam, or the true foundation and the pure foundation of Islam, so that when this generation grow up, they could not be snatched away by these radicals. They could not be victimized and brainwashed by these radicals. When they tell them, "Hey, come on, we do something and we'll go to paradise," and they will be better. They will have a better understanding of Islam, what Islam is all about. Then they will be immunized. They will be like have this self-conscious of Islam and of its teachings, and they won't be like an easy target for the radicals. This is what we do from our end here, and I think if any other faith group would like to know about Islam, I think the cross-cultural communication is the best key for that. I believe that ISIL exists in the picture, in the image. Unfortunately, I'm not sure who they are. I'm not sure where they're from. I'm not sure who funds them or supports them. I'm not sure what are they targeting or what are they aiming for. I believe so. Like many Muslims, millions of Muslims believe that they exist and they act or they behave under the shadow of Islam, like KKK once used to operate under the shadow of Christianity and Jesus Christ, and when they were burning the cross. They were masked, they appear in the picture masked and undercover, like the KKK used to also appear undercover and they were masked. Like Hitler was killing the people under the name of Christ. Like the Crusades in the 16th century or 17th century used to invade countries and invade places under the name of the cross. I think ISIS is no exception. I think they will do the same thing under the name of Islam, and I think Islam is disassociated from their actions or from their conduct. Absolutely.
Do you think
The Arab Spring is a great threat to ISIS? I think so. That's my opinion. Arab Spring has accomplished what terrorists were not able to accomplish for 100 years. Arab Spring is the will of the people. Okay, of the will of the people to change, to positive change their condition. But the terrorism was not a tool for change whatsoever. I believe he was the second Egyptian president after the 1952. Egypt used to be a kingdom ruled by the by the Ottomans until 1952, where the Egyptian army took over. He was the second president. The person who led the Islamic Revolution in Iran, and he overthrown the Shah, the Iranian Shah. I think that he was the icon of this Islamic Revolution. We do not think that he is or he was on the right path in terms of the Islamic creed.
Benjamin Netanyahu is the Prime Minister of Israel and is now serving his second term. He's a hardline conservative Prime Minister, and so from my perspective, he is not worked very hard to find a way to broker peace with Palestine in order to find a two-state solution and to draw some boundaries around the the settlements, Israeli settlements in Palestinian land, nor the right of return of Palestinian refugees into Palestine. And
Hamas, I think they are a group who are in the Gaza Strip now, and they are struggling. I open the media and I see they are throwing Israel with rockets and Israel throwing back with rockets. That's all I know about. The historical point of it is that after the death of the messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, some people believed that his successor should have been his cousin and his son-in-law Ali. Some people thought that his successor should have been his best friend Abu Bakr, and then because of this conflict, the Shiites are the ones who believe that Ali should have been the successor, and the Sunnis are the ones who believe that Abu Bakr should have been the successor. However, the Sunni people, we back up every successor of the Prophet, but the Shiites only back up their cousin. So I think the Sunnis encompasses the Shiites approach. Usually are in the field with whoever is having a problem. And I think the United States was like the police officer of this world. I mean, you cannot be negative about things. Camps, or Lebanese camps, where Israeli troops went there and they committed a mass murder, and it was something like it was like a black spot in the history of the Israeli occupation in this part of the world. The wall is doing protection. I mean, I don't think that was something would be upsetting. If there is an agreement between the two parties that everyone is given a land to live in, and I think everyone has a right to secure his borders.
The PLO is the Palestinian Liberation Organization and has been the governing body of Palestine, if you can call it that, over the last decades, starting in the 1960s. Yasser Arafat was the head of the PLO for many years until he died in 2004. The PLO has had various iterations of itself, and at times operates more as a organization to defeat or terrorize Israel, and at other times tries to broker deals with Israel or other Arab states on behalf of the Palestinian people.
To know that Islam is a universal religion, it's not limited to a part of the world, to the Middle East, it's not limited to Europe. Islam is a religion, and I think people from the four corners of the world adhere to Islam. And there are a lot of things, a lot of stuff has been falsely and unjustly attributed to Islam because of cultural-related issues. The issues of beating the women, the issues of female circumcision, the issues of all these things have been falsely attributed to Islam and to the Sharia or the instructions and the law of Islam, while Islam is innocent of it. I think the people before, the Arabs before they became Muslims, they were nothing. They have no culture. They were very ignorant people, and after they embraced Islam, they improved. So I think Islam was actually something valuable to them. And I don't believe that Islam is responsible for terrorism. I don't believe Islam is responsible for a lot of violent acts in the Middle East. I believe politics is the reason why all these things are happening.
You have to have two partners to make peace. You can't make peace all by yourself.